Welcome to MindTier Learning, where we make GCSE learning and revision simple and effective. Today, we'll explore practical strategies and tips designed to help you study smarter, manage your time well, and boost your confidence as you prepare for your exams. Let's dive in and make your revision journey as smooth and successful as possible. Welcome to today's lesson on managing river landscapes. So far, we have looked at how rivers shape the land, how landforms are created, and why rivers flood. Today, we are moving on to a really important question. What can humans do to manage rivers safely and sustainably? Rivers are useful, powerful, and sometimes dangerous. They provide water, transport, fertile land, and habitats. But they can also flood, damage homes, destroy businesses, and threaten lives. The challenge is that we cannot simply stop rivers from behaving like rivers. Rivers naturally flood. They naturally erode, transport, and deposit material. So river management is about balancing human safety with environmental health. Today, we will look at two main types of river management: hard engineering and soft engineering. Hard engineering means building man-made structures to control the river. Soft engineering means working with natural processes to reduce risk. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to compare these approaches and explain why the best river management often uses a combination of both. Let's begin with the learning objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to do three things. First, you should be able to evaluate the effectiveness of hard and soft engineering strategies. That means you need to look at both the advantages and disadvantages. You should be able to explain why a strategy might work well in one place, but not be suitable somewhere else. Second, you should be able to analyze a UK-based case study for river management. Today, we will use Banbury in the UK as our example. We will look at the strategies used there and consider their social, economic, and environmental impacts. Third, you should be able to understand how human activity relies on healthy river systems. This is important because river management is not only about stopping floods. It is also about protecting the river as a living system that people, wildlife, and future generations depend on. So the big question for today is, how can we manage rivers without damaging the very systems we rely on? Before we go further, let's look at the key vocabulary. The first term is hard engineering. Hard engineering means man-made structures built to control natural processes. Examples include dams, reservoirs, concrete channels, embankments, and flood walls. The second term is soft engineering. Soft engineering means managing flood risk by working with nature. Examples include afforestation, floodplain zoning, river restoration, and flood storage areas. The third term is sustainable management. Sustainable management means meeting the needs of people today without harming the ability of future generations to meet their needs. In river management, this means reducing flood risk while also protecting river ecosystems. The fourth term is flood zoning. Flood zoning means restricting land use in areas at risk of flooding. For example, a council might stop housing estates being built on the highest risk parts of a floodplain. These terms are really important for GCSE Geography because river management questions often ask you to compare strategies and judge how sustainable they are. Before we look at solutions, we need to remind ourselves of the problem. Flooding rarely happens because of just one factor. Usually, several causes combine. Some causes are physical. These include heavy rainfall, saturated ground, impermeable rock, and steep slopes. Other causes are human. These include urbanization, deforestation, and building on floodplains. A key concept is lag time. Lag time is the delay between peak rainfall and peak discharge. Peak rainfall means the time when rainfall is at its heaviest. Peak discharge means the time when the river reaches its highest flow. If lag time is short, water reaches the river quickly. The river rises rapidly, and flood risk increases. Human activity can shorten lag time. For example, urbanization creates impermeable surfaces like roads, roofs, and pavements. These stop water soaking into the ground. Instead, water runs quickly over the surface or through drains into rivers. Deforestation also increases flood risk. Trees intercept rainfall and help water infiltrate into the soil. If trees are removed, more water reaches the river quickly. So before we manage flooding, we must understand that flood risk is about both rainfall and land use. Let's do a quick review. Question 1. Which human activity increases surface runoff by removing interception? Question 2. What term describes surfaces like tarmac that do not allow water to pass through? Question 3. Does a steep-sided valley increase or decrease the risk of a flash flood? Take a few moments to think through your answers. Remember, interception is when vegetation catches rainfall before it reaches the ground. Impermeable surfaces stop water soaking into the ground. Steep valleys move water quickly downhill. Let's go through the answers. For question 1, the answer is deforestation. Deforestation removes trees, which reduces interception. This means more rainfall reaches the ground directly, increasing surface runoff. For question 2, the answer is impermeable. Impermeable surfaces, such as tarmac and concrete, do not allow water to pass through them. For question 3, a steep-sided valley increases the risk of a flash flood. This is because water moves downhill quickly on steep slopes. Surface runoff reaches the river faster, lag time becomes shorter, and the river rises more rapidly. These ideas are important because river management strategies often try to do the opposite. They try to slow water down, store it, or keep vulnerable buildings away from flood-prone areas. Now let's look at hard engineering. Hard engineering involves building man-made structures to control natural river processes. These strategies are often high-cost and high-tech. They are usually designed to give strong, visible protection against flooding. One example is a dam and reservoir. A dam is a barrier built across a river. It holds back water in a reservoir. This allows people to control the river's discharge. During heavy rainfall, water can be stored behind the dam and released more slowly later. Dams can also provide drinking water and hydroelectric power, often called HEP. Another example is channel lining. This is when the river channel is straightened, deepened, or lined with concrete. The aim is to increase the river's capacity and move water away from an area more quickly. Hard engineering can be useful because it can protect valuable land, homes, and businesses. But there are problems. Hard engineering can be very expensive. It can look artificial and unattractive. It can also disrupt natural habitats and fish migration. So hard engineering may protect people in one place, but it can also create environmental problems or even increase flood risk somewhere else downstream. Now let's evaluate hard engineering. First, let's look at the benefits. Hard engineering can provide immediate property protection. This is very important in towns and cities where lots of homes, shops, schools, hospitals, and roads may be at risk. Dams and reservoirs can control discharge by storing water. This can reduce the chance of floods reaching towns downstream. Reservoirs can also provide water supply and hydroelectric power, so they may have benefits beyond flood protection. Hard engineering can also make people feel safer because the defenses are visible. A flood wall or embankment gives a clear sense that something is protecting the area. But now let's look at the drawbacks. Hard engineering is often expensive to build and maintain. If structures are not maintained properly, they may fail. Some hard engineering can increase downstream erosion. For example, if a river is straightened or lined with concrete, water may move faster, carrying more energy into the next part of the river. Hard engineering can also damage habitats. Concrete channels remove natural banks, vegetation, and habitats for fish, birds, and insects. It can also look artificial and reduce the natural beauty of the river landscape. So, when evaluating hard engineering, we should not simply say it is good or bad. We should ask, where is it being used? What is it protecting? How much does it cost? What environmental damage might it cause? Now let's look at soft engineering. Soft engineering works with natural processes rather than trying to completely control the river. It is often cheaper, more sustainable, and better for the environment. One example is afforestation. Afforestation means planting trees. Trees help reduce flood risk because they intercept rainfall. Their roots help water infiltrate into the soil, and they also increase transpiration, where water is transferred back into the atmosphere through plants. This slows the movement of water to the river and increases lag time. Another example is floodplain zoning. Floodplain zoning means controlling what can be built on floodplains. High-risk areas may be used for parks, sports fields, or farmland instead of housing estates or hospitals. This does not stop a flood from happening. Instead, it reduces the damage when a flood occurs. That is a key point. Soft engineering does not always stop floods. It manages the impact and reduces the speed of water movement. This makes it more sustainable because it accepts that rivers need space to flood naturally. Let's check your understanding of soft engineering. The question is, which of these is the most significant advantage of floodplain zoning? Is it 1. It speeds up the river's flow to the sea. 2. It protects expensive buildings by not putting them at risk. 3. It creates drinking water for local communities. 4. It is a form of hard engineering using concrete walls. Take a moment to think. Floodplain zoning is about land use planning. It is not about making the river faster, and it is not about building concrete structures. So which option best explains its main advantage? The correct answer is 2. It protects expensive buildings by not putting them at risk. Floodplain zoning reduces flood damage by making sure vulnerable or expensive developments are not placed in the areas most likely to flood. For example, a council might decide that the land closest to the river should be used as a park or playing field rather than for houses. If the river floods, the park may be covered by water, but the damage is much lower than if homes or businesses were built there. This is why floodplain zoning is often seen as a sustainable strategy. It recognizes that floodplains naturally flood. Instead of trying to stop the river completely, it keeps people and valuable property out of the highest risk areas. Now we are going to look at a UK case study, Banbury. Banbury is a town in the Cotswolds that has experienced serious flooding in the past. To reduce flood risk, a flood management scheme was completed in 2012 at a cost of £18.5 million. This scheme is a useful example because it uses both hard and soft engineering. The first part of the strategy was a 2.9-kilometer embankment. An embankment is a raised bank designed to hold back floodwater and protect homes and businesses. This is an example of hard engineering because it is a built structure. The second part was a large flood storage area. This is more like soft engineering because it gives water somewhere to go during periods of high flow. Instead of allowing floodwater to rush into the town, the water can be stored temporarily. The third part of the scheme involved raising the A361 road. This helped keep transport links open during floods. So the Banbury scheme shows how river management can combine different strategies. It is not simply hard engineering or soft engineering. It is an integrated approach. Now let's look at the impacts of the Banbury scheme. First, the social impact. The scheme protected over 400 houses from future flooding. This matters because flooding can force people out of their homes, damage possessions, and cause stress and trauma. The scheme also protected 70 businesses. This helps protect jobs, services, and the local economy. Second, the economic impact. The scheme is estimated to have produced over £100 million in benefits by avoiding flood damage costs. This is important because although the scheme cost £18.5 million, the avoided damage costs are much higher. In other words, the benefits appear to outweigh the original cost. Third, the environmental impact. The scheme included new biodiversity action plan areas, with trees and ponds. This is important because flood management can sometimes damage the environment. But in this case, the scheme also created habitats and supported biodiversity. Banbury is a strong case study because it shows that flood management can protect people, save money, and create environmental benefits when it is planned carefully. Now let's step back and think about why rivers matter. It might be tempting to think that the easiest solution is to control rivers completely. We could build walls, concrete channels, and drains everywhere. But that would create new problems. Human civilization has always relied on rivers. Rivers provide water for drinking, farming, and industry. They offer transport routes. They deposit fertile soil on floodplains. They support ecosystems and provide habitats for wildlife. Floodplains are not wasted land. They are natural storage areas for floodwater. If we build over floodplains or destroy natural river functions, we may increase danger for the future. For example, if a floodplain is covered in concrete, water cannot soak in or spread out safely. Instead, it may be forced downstream more quickly, increasing flood risk elsewhere. So river management is not about defeating nature. It is about understanding natural processes and making sensible choices. A river is more than just a channel of water. It is part of a larger system that people and ecosystems depend on. Now let's think like decision makers. The question is, if you were the mayor of a small town with a limited budget, would you choose one expensive hard engineering project or several cheaper soft engineering projects? Explain your reasoning. This is an evaluation question. There is not one perfect answer. If you choose hard engineering, you might argue that it gives stronger and more immediate protection. If the town center is at serious risk, a flood wall, embankment, or dam might protect homes, businesses, and key infrastructure. Hard engineering may be especially useful where the value of the land is high or where failure would be very dangerous. But there are disadvantages. One expensive project may use up most of the budget. It may damage habitats or increase flood risk downstream. It may also need costly maintenance. If you choose soft engineering, you might argue that several smaller projects could work together. For example, the town could plant trees upstream, create flood storage areas, restore wetlands, and use floodplain zoning. These strategies may be cheaper, more sustainable, and better for the environment. However, soft engineering may not provide enough protection during extreme floods. A strong answer might say that the best option is a combination. For example, the town could use hard engineering to protect the most valuable or vulnerable areas, while using soft engineering upstream and on floodplains to slow water down and reduce overall flood risk. You might have said that hard engineering offers visible security. That is a valid point. People may feel safer when they can see a flood wall, embankment, or barrier protecting the town center. You might also have said that soft engineering is cheaper and more sustainable. That is also valid. Soft engineering often works with natural processes, improves habitats, and reduces flood risk over a wider area. But you might have added that soft engineering may fail during extreme floods. That is an important point. During very heavy rainfall, trees, flood storage areas, and zoning may reduce damage, but they may not fully stop flooding. The strongest answer is likely to argue for an integrated approach, like Banbury. This means using both hard and soft engineering together. For example, hard defenses could protect the town center, while flood storage areas and afforestation reduce the amount of water reaching the town. A strong evaluation should also consider the long-term legacy. A decision that protects people today but damages the river for the next 50 years may not be sustainable. So the best river management is not just about stopping the next flood. It is about creating a safer and healthier river system for the future. Let's finish by looking to the future. As climate change increases the risk of extreme weather, river management will become even more important. Heavier rainfall events can increase river discharge and make flooding more likely. This means some existing flood defenses may be placed under more pressure. In the past, many river management strategies focused mainly on hard engineering. The aim was to control the river using walls, dams, and concrete channels. But today, there is growing recognition that we need integrated management. Integrated management means using a combination of strategies across the whole river basin. Instead of only protecting one town, we think about what is happening upstream, downstream, and across the floodplain. For example, trees could be planted upstream to slow runoff. Flood storage areas could hold excess water. Floodplain zoning could keep buildings out of high-risk areas. Hard engineering could be used only where it is really needed, such as protecting key infrastructure. This approach is more sustainable because it balances human safety with environmental health. The future of river management is not about choosing between people and nature. It is about recognizing that people need healthy river systems in order to be safe. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind you to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you found the content helpful. Your support really helps us continue creating valuable content. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.